And we are live. I'll go ahead and call to order the regular meeting of the City Council for April 15th, 2024. First item of business is invocation and pledge of allegiance, and Councilmember Gardner will lead in that.
Let's pray. Our Heavenly Father, thank you for this day that you bless us with, Lord, and thank you for the ability that we have to gather here tonight and conduct the city's business, God. Father, we ask for wisdom each and every week that we're here, and we always ask that you grant us wisdom to be able to discern what is best for the city and for the residents here, Father. We want this city to be able to prosper and grow, and we just ask for your help in doing that and guiding us through the right paths that can make this city be successful in each and every way. Thank you for all those that serve this city day in and day out, Father. We're so thankful to live in this great place, and we just ask for your protection on all those that serve the city each and every day. We just ask that we will always be stewards of this place where we live, Father, and look to serve others and find someone to serve each and every day so that we can help their life be better as well, God. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, that moves us to the April 1st meeting minutes. Y'all have received a copy of that in your packet. I'll go ahead and open the floor for discussion. If there is none, I'd entertain a motion to adopt the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of adopting the April 1st minutes, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. I have public comment cards, but they are all on agenda items, so we will get to those at that agenda item. Next up is the financial statement review. Beatrice, come on down.
Hello, good afternoon. Well, we are going, Tina, you have the PowerPoint? Okay, thank you. So I highlighted a little bit for you in order we can go over the financials as of March 2024. I highlight the most important variances and issues that I consider are important to mention to you only. In this first page is our general fund. In our general fund, and if you compare full year 24 adopted budget besides revised budget, we already added around $900,000 for open POs from 2023 mainly. It was more for construction, like the pickleball, the police software, the gateway park engineering, and public safety equipment. In the revenue side for 2022 versus 2003 for as of March, we have variances in some lines, but in general, we have average revenue trend. In the expenditures, we have the police and the fire department, as well as public works. The salary increases that we had in 2024 are reflected, and this is why the expenses look very high. Talking about capital expenditures, we bought, as of March, 4 police vehicles with equipment. The fire department spent the emergency lights in building and safety equipment. In the parks department, the pickleball shades was installed, the security camera for community center was installed, and we have a metal roof for Rolling Oaks. Also, a grasshopper mower for Diamond Center. So, Tina. If we go to the next page, we can see the general fund general balance. In the general fund balance, if you can see, we are okay. Why? Because we are above requirement for $8 million. The requirement is $4.5 million, that is the 20% revised budget operational expenses. So as of March 2024, we have a reduction of the 1 million that is for the result as of March that is negative. Next page, Tina, please. Then we have in the next page our street fund. In our street fund, we have a big variance in capital expenditures. In the capital expenditures, we bought a power buggy rubber truck for streets. We bought in 2023 a bucket truck for street. And also there have been some expenditures regarding the mill perimeter asphalt and joints around the old concrete curbs. The fund balance, if you can see, it's okay. It has a reduction of 500,000 as of March, but it's the result that we have as of March 2024. If we move to the next page, we have our sanitation fund. In the sanitation fund, we have the same trend as in 2023. The main changes are, again, in capital expenditures. As in 2023, we bought 2021 Freightliners in the Q3 2023. We have a fund balance of $600,000 as of March 2024. Next page, Tina, please. And then this is the end of our presentation. This is just the police and fire fund that is just presented for informative purposes. Talking about some financial updates, the auditors are working with their quality department to have ready an accounting report by May 2024, as they promised. I don't want to push them much because we are okay. We gave everything to him. We continue working with the OpenGov team to set up the invoicing approval process within the OpenGov software. The idea will be that Tina, as well as the mayor and all the different departments, don't make physical signatures of approval, but everything will be electronic. That's the way we want to move in the future. And we continue evaluating the OpenGov software also to be sure that we have all the security measures in place to start with electronic payments. And that's all what I have for as of March.
Thank you, ma'am. Are there any questions or comments? Councilmember Mosley?
Yeah, how's the audit going? Are we still, are they going to be ready to give us the year-end or the year-end presentation on the second May meeting?
They are still working with the quality department, and they are going to be ready to by May 15 to finalize the report.
Okay, they'll be ready by May 16th?
Yes, May 15, 16, I mean, yes.
Okay, okay, great. So we expect to see them then the second meeting in May. That's 2 meetings
Well, that
away.
is not my decision, but if the mayor decides to invite them.
Soon as it's ready, so if we get it, we'll give the council the audit, and we typically give it to y'all a week in advance. So just depending on the day we get it, when that lines up, obviously we want to get in here as soon as possible.
Okay, great. I've got maybe one more question. Well, I guess that's it. That's it. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
If there's nothing further, I'd entertain a motion to accept the financial statement. So moved. I've got a motion and a second. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All opposed, no. Motion carries.
Thank you.
The next item is the procedural motion. At this time, I'd entertain a motion to have all ordinances and resolutions read by title only.
So moved.
We've got a motion and a second. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. We have no unfinished business, but we do have some new business. What I'd like to do is the last item in new business is the Gateway Park discussion. With the council's permission, I'd entertain a motion to move that to the top of the agenda item. I've got the engineers here, and we've got a slide show thing that we can kind of go over a little bit there.
So moved.
Second.
I've got a motion and second. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor of moving the Gateway Park discussion to the first item of new business signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. Great. Gentlemen, come on down. So you'll recall at the last council meeting, we kind of talked about Gateway Park. It is currently budgeted for $1.3 million. We received on top of that $120,000 grant to work on part of the side path, and then Scott's office has worked through Pulaski County to get a remediation grant to help remediate the building before it gets torn down. That's a value up to $200,000. Still, the numbers we're looking at for the type of park that we're going to kind of talk about are at approximately 1.7 million. So what we wanted to do is kind of show you some of the differences of the types of things that would need to be cut from the Gateway Park in order to get it to fit kind of closer to that budget number. So I'll pass the floor off to you.
Good evening,
Dave.
Dave Roberts, Crafton Toll. Brad Peterson, our civil engineer, is here as well. And so Tina's going to flip through some slides. I don't know if you all have seen this image yet, but that previous one was a perspective we did looking into the park from really above the entrance drive, showing you the pavilion, the restroom beyond that, all the food trucks that are kind of wrapped around the side with the boulevard in the background, small stage, and then you can see the trail off to the right. And then the next slide just shows you the plan view. We've shown this before, but where you were looking a minute ago was closer to where that red truck is up on Millwood, looking down south into the park. So what we're going to do is run through some. Now keep in mind, this park is obviously gateway into the Maumelle Mile that goes all the way down Club Manor, because you'll come through this park and continue all the way down where the new improvements. So what we understood is that this needs to sort of set the stage for the way our new Main Street is going to look and feel, and the activities that can occur here, from the farmers market to the festivals and everything. Again, we're going to try to set the stage. So let me show you some images and some potential options. So the next slide will show you what we designed is on the right, and that's called crushed granite or decomposed granite. That image is actually from Heifer International. And so your drive lanes are concrete or asphalt, and then your parking areas are granite. That means if the food trucks have leak oil, or any of the folks who are parking there have any oil, you're not going to have the stained concrete or asphalt. On the left, you can see a standard parking lot that's asphalt. There's less maintenance of the asphalt, but we were going for a low impact development. The water will percolate through and filter through that crushed granite. So if you remember, we had to
speak to that really quick. This is something I think we need more of in the city. So what happens is when we get heavy rains, the more rain we can keep out of the stormwater system, the better. So the more permeable surfaces we have, the more that water can soak through and become groundwater in that area, instead of being on asphalt and then carrying down into the drainage areas. Just a fun fact that we'll probably be talking about more outside of just this project.
Well, and I should have backed up and remind you that there was a steering committee that gave us guidance when we were doing this design, and we also had some public surveys that gave us guidance. So some of these ideas came from the steering committee that we followed through with. So you can see not a huge savings, but we just wanted you to see what we designed versus what your option could be if you chose to save a little. The next slide shows you the trail. What we designed on the right is the concrete trail coming through the park versus the option for asphalt. A little larger savings, but again, it's not anything huge. There's pros and cons to both. Either one is fine. You'll see a lot more asphalt in Central Arkansas, more concrete like the Razorback Greenway. You do have joints, but you'll have less brittle edges with the concrete, and the tree roots tend to not cause as many problems as it does with the asphalt. And the next slide, now the next 4 images are going to show you an option. And if you remember the plan view, Tina, would you mind go back about 3 slides? And if you go back to the plan view, you'll see there's an area that was deemed a wetland. And it's in the bottom left corner of the plan, right down there where you see the water. And we have a boardwalk section. We're calling it a boardwalk, but so we've got some options for how that could look and feel. And so now, if you were to go back to where we are, sorry about that, I should have had that down there. You'll see On the right, what we design is what's called Permatrek. It's like a concrete decking. That's actually up in Rogers at Lake Atalanta.
For those that did the benchmarking trip up in northwest Arkansas, it was the boardwalk around the lake that we rode around.
Now, you also rode on what's on the left, which is a little bit cheaper, and that is composite. So it's not wood, it's a composite material. That's in Springdale at Turnbow Park. And then the next two slides would be even cheaper options. Would be a wood boardwalk, which obviously has some deterioration issues and longevity issues, save more money, and then just purely do a box culvert to allow that wetland area to flow through. But Brad will tell you there's some permitting issues that could slow things down if you just went with a culvert. So again, 4 different issues or options for that wetland area. And the next slide is lighting. We did design in downlights in some of the trees, especially down by the stage area versus on the right. Now you're seeing path lights, which we wouldn't have, but I wanted you just to see tree lights versus no tree lights. And you know, we're trying to save as many trees as we can in that area by the trail as it comes through and wraps from the sort of the south around towards the boulevard and up north. And the next slide is the food truck. So we have, I believe, 11 food truck spaces. Our goal was always to not have the generators running, especially if you have a full-blown festival, and you've got all those spaces utilized. What we priced in was what you see on the left, the pedestal. We actually could go to a cheaper option, which would be 1 pedestal between 2 stalls, which we're not showing the savings on that. But we did want you to see the difference, because if you've been to any of the festivals, whether it's in Little Rock or here at the middle school, you'll hear the generators and you'll smell the generators. That was one thing the committee said, let's try to avoid that. So again, we're just showing you potential cost savings, but our hope is that we elevate this park because of its proximity to the boulevard and the beginning of the Main Street. I think that there's one more slide. Yep, that's just to show you the park itself again as we talk about all those items. So Mayor, that's all we had.
So I wanted to go ahead and open the floor for discussion. Ultimately, what the way this might be worded would be through a motion to proceed with the plans that are approximately, 1.7 is what we're looking at now. That's with the contingency built in. But that ends up being about several $100,000, $300,000-400,000 more than is in the budget right now. I wouldn't ask for a budget resolution right now because I've, no offense, cover your ears, I've never run into an engineer's estimate that's been accurate, and not just with y'all, but with anyone ever that is accurate when the bids come in, usually. Councilmember Tierney?
Yes, one of the things I'm kind of curious about, you were showing us options that were cheaper, options that were more expensive. On the more expensive options, what about serviceability down the road as far as future repairs? It looked like some of those, it might actually save us money down the road as opposed to saving money now.
That is correct, yes. And a few of them are safety issues too. But when it comes to saving money, the option of the 4 different images for the boardwalk area, if you went to wood, it's certainly going to deteriorate quickly, as opposed to the first option that we had actually designed in and priced in, which is the next slide up on the right, the Permatrek. I don't know what the warranty is on it, but it's going to last 2 or 3 times longer than some of those other options. Composite would come in right behind it, but I think the Permatrek is going to give you that longevity. And then when we talk about safety, I know you didn't ask about safety, but I'll throw out the lights in the trees we felt were a good safety feature, because when you have those downlights, it's going to feel like a full moon effect. Mm-hmm. And I know there's folks in our population who will not go to a park if it's nighttime, and especially if it doesn't have lights. We do have lights in the parking areas, but that would provide some lights. And the path will have some lights ultimately when Club Manor happens. So I hope that answered some of your questions.
Well, let me just ask one more question about image you've got up here. What would you say the life of the composite decks would be compared to the Permatrek decking on the image shown here? I mean, if you compared the two.
That's a hard question.
Yeah, it's tough to put a number on it. I would
Just
say
ballpark.
you're talking about in 5 to 10 years you'll be making repairs on the composite decking. where Permatrex, you would expect it to be greater than 20 years before you
Right,
have any
that's what I was wanting
significant
to get
return.
at. So, some of
We
these
like the-
savings here
the
would actually
lower-
cost us more lower later.
We like so the composite decking is still decking, right? So imagine if you're walking or pushing someone in a wheelchair, riding a bike, you've got the rumble. We also then have the issue of Parks and Rec needing to maintain those. The composite's better than your normal wood, but we do run into around Lake Valencia lots of the different stuff there, where they're having to go down and re-nail boards, or someone trips and falls because
Right.
it's uneven. And just as a heads up, this is not an exhaustive list of everything. There are things that, because if someone's counted all that math, it doesn't get to those numbers. We're looking at also things like we have string lights that are going across and pictured in the last picture, I think, that kind of create a space. So there's just a number of different things that I think we can just eliminate or reduce down to get it in there. This is a good example. You can see in this, you've got the farmer's market pavilion in that picture, and to our right, you've got that lawn where folks are gonna kind of be able to sit with picnic tables and the like, and it has string lights there. It was actually, I think, in the last rendered picture. You can see it in the background, next to the right. Yes. It's not going, there we go. You can kind of see it in the background there. So, I just wanted to say that there's more things than just these. This is just pretty indicative of the types of differences.
And I will
Councilmember-
add, Mayor, that one thing we didn't really want to get cheaper or touch was the pavilion, because we think its use is going to be needed, the size is going to be needed, and the quality of the restrooms. It's a men's, women's, and a family restroom, so there's actually 3 restrooms, and they're, again, a quality product that we just did. I don't think you want to cut corners on some of your structures. We can certainly talk about modifying some of the things we showed you, but the main pieces we left as they were intended.
So other things that might be needed is, we saw in that last photograph, the stage that was lit right there, that can be completely removed, although that was a popular resident or council member recommended addition there. Councilmember Shin?
Last week during the festival, we parked over at Audubon and walked in and walked out both days. The condition of our asphalt trails over there, even though they've been ground and appear to be maintained, they're horrible. So I really, for what we're talking here and what our future plans are, I can't see going with asphalt.
Thank you, sir. So I'm interested if y'all think we should go with will y'all give authority to go forward with a higher number, knowing that we'll have to come back with a budget amendment at some point in time?
Sounds good to me. I'll make that motion if you are asking for it. Motion to proceed as designed, minus the budget resolution.
Any additional discussion on that? Councilmember Tierney?
Yeah, I just gotta realize what we were talking about earlier, about sometimes saving a nickel now might cost you $1 down the line. So I think it'd be better to spend the $1 now and save $10 down the line, so I'd agree with that.
Thank you, sir. Any additional comments? Councilmember Mosley?
Yep, are the bathrooms gonna be pretty high quality? I think that's gonna make a lot of difference.
It is do you guys want to explain what it is?
It's a pre-engineered restroom facility, but they are very, I mean, you can get as customized as you'd like with it, with the facade and the fixtures. I mean, I think their base level is attractive. It has some color on the outside. It's got some texture to the block. You can add some trim to it. So I would say for a pre-engineered, pre-manufactured restroom building, they're very high quality. It's not something that you would find at maybe a park that was built several years ago, or maybe not be attended. It's, I think, a good architectural, has a sloped roof on it and shingles.
I assume there's multiple toilets
Yes.
in the women's and the men's, okay.
Yes, and it'll have a family restroom as well.
All right, good.
I think there's a urinal and a stall in the men's, and then 2 stalls in the women's, plus a family bathroom.
Okay,
But it's large enough the family restroom is large enough to also double as a handicap for turnaround for a wheelchair, so.
Right, good. I just want a good restroom facility there because that's important to people. Thank you.
I think it looks better than a lot of the ones we have in the parks, but it's not, it's prefab, not built on site. Okay, we have a motion and a second to proceed as designed, knowing that there will be a budget resolution coming once the bids come out. All those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming out and throwing this slide together.
Thank you, and I want to mention that not only are we consultants, but both Brad and I are residents of Maumelle, so we want top quality, so that's our goal. Yeah. Thank you.
I feel like I run into Brad all over the place, whether it's at Lake Williston or soccer practices or whatnot. All right, we'll move on to the second item of new business, Resolution 2024-13, amending the 2024 general fund budget. Madam City Clerk, if you could please read that by title only.
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, a resolution to be entitled Resolution Number 2024-13, a resolution to amend the 2024 general fund budget.
The hailstorm that we experienced did a number on city vehicles. We have received the insurance on that and are wanting to take that money and pay the work. Councilmember Mazzoni.
Motion to approve.
Motion and a second. Councilmember Mosley.
Yeah, there was one item here that didn't look to be vehicle. It was buildings, maintenance and parks. Is this, did our Lake Williston suffer some damage, or what damage do we have in relation to the parks?
The
Look.
skylights, there was damage in the skylights.
Sorry.
And then also, there was some damage over by the Aquatic Center.
By the what? The aquatic?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, okay. So,
The sky, what I heard someone shout out was the skylights at the community center.
all right. All right, thank you.
I've got a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 2024-13. Any additional discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. We will move on to the first reading of Ordinance 1117 regarding penalties for violating City Code Chapter 10. Madam City Clerk, if you could please read that by title only.
Be it enacted by the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled Ordinance Number 1117, an ordinance to amend Maumelle City Code provisions concerning penalties for violating Chapter 10, animal bites, animal licenses, animals at large, dangerous and vicious animals, and for other purposes.
All right, so this is, you will recall, we had a dog bite not long ago, and I told you that it was particularly frustrating because the dog that one of the dogs that ended up attacking, the dog in this incident, we had already found on 2 days prior that dog had been at large. And our code doesn't really allow us to do anything with that. So I told you we'd be bringing a ordinance that addressed that and actually gives stronger provisions for animal control, to be able to, if a dog is at large that frequently, there's certain holds and conditions on it. While we were going through that, we thought the city attorney came up with a few different ideas, and we consulted with animal control on different things that we could do to change them. I'll just hit them really quickly. It expands restitution available for offenses, so that's your dog bite cases, allows Maumelle District Court to order restitution to the victim. We created a puppy license, kitten license for animals younger than 1 year. I found that, it's silly, I found it particularly interesting. I've got a puppy, she's 8 months old now. When I first got the puppy, one of the first things I do is I go down to get a license for my dog. I couldn't do that because my dog didn't have the rabies vaccine. It couldn't get the rabies vaccine at 8 weeks old. They said, you know, the vet said you want to wait 6 months. I know of some breeders that put requirements that you can't get your animal spayed for the first year or year and a half, or spayed or neutered for that period of time. But so I was in a weird predicament where I had a dog in my house. I'd gone to animal control and requested a license. I couldn't get a license. And so I wanted to put a provision in there that at least gets that on the books. Now animal control knows there's an animal there. They don't need the rabies vaccine at that age because they're too young to get it. This also clarifies when the city can petition to euthanize an animal following an attack. It imposes additional requirements before an animal found at large can be returned to its owner. So if we impound an animal that's been at large, this gives us some additional authority over those issues. It revises some provisions concerning dangerous and vicious animals, changes the procedure for appealing a determination from the court to the city council, and then just has a few other minor changes throughout animal control, through the animal ordinance. Before I move on, I have a number of I've got 5 public comment cards that are dealing with animals, safety of animals. Ordinarily, if we just had one ordinance, it'd be very clear that this would be the opportunity to talk about it. But we also have later on a ordinance amending a breed ban for certain breeds. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call the folks off one by one. If you would prefer to talk and later on in the council on the breed ban, then just let me know. If you'd prefer to talk on this ordinance, let me know. So first up is that Lee McDaniel? McDanick? Did I butcher that sufficiently? Would you like to talk on this one or the breed ban? Whichever.
Flip a coin, I don't care.
Let's get you going then. How bad did I butcher your name, ma'am?
Well, you did good, by the way, and you skipped over the first one, so that's a good thing. It's the hardest one to say.
Okay, we'll call you up for the next one. Linda Kesey?
It doesn't matter, whichever one. I'm here to talk about my bite when I was attacked.
So, well, let's bring you up now.
Okay. Okay, I wanted, the reason people choose to move out here is because they feel it's safe.
Pardon me, I'm sorry. If you could state your name and address for the
Oh.
record, please, and then you
Linda
have
Kazee, 46 Oak Forest Place. And what I'm saying, the reason people choose to move out here, and I'm sure all of you did, was because it was a safe place to live for your family. And now, the reason people are moving out here, another reason, is so they can have dogs that were previously banned from Maumelle. On October 22nd, 2023, I was attacked by 2 pit bulls at my front door. I now have a permanent scar and a bruise that I hope will go away someday. The attack was silent. The attack lasted 2 seconds. They were behind me, then they were at my feet, crouched down, and then I was through my door. These dogs were not licensed, they were not vaccinated, they had to be quarantined for 10 days. The owner said the female was 3 months old. She weighed 62.8 pounds. The owner said the male was 7 months old. He weighed 81 pounds. This owner also has another pit bull in his house, and it's a year old, or was a year old then. These were not deemed dangerous animal designation because it wasn't warranted due to the nature of the wound and not needing stitches. It was a first offense, and the suspect was cooperative. He also pled not guilty. I had never been bitten by a dog until that night. I was attacked at my front door. I was very lucky I wasn't in my yard. Until that day, I had never been afraid in Maumelle. When I walk outside, I carry my phone, my keys, and pepper spray. There will be a day when people will be carrying guns to go for a walk in Maumelle, and that will be dangerous. Sunday, I took my 4-year-old little great-grandson out to Lake Valencia, to Williston. I talked to a lady that had been pushed over at Lake Williston by a cane corsa. The couple that had him on an electronic leash. It broke away. They paid her not to call the police. She took the money. She now regrets it. I also talked to a lady whose dog was attacked while she was walking around Lake Williston. The dog is okay now. After my attack, I walked around Lake Williston and I saw a man carrying a board and pepper spray. I asked him why he was doing that. He said, because of the dogs in the neighborhoods. I said, have you ever been approached by dogs on Lake Williston? But this was several months ago. Even before the attack, the lady that got her dog was attacked at Lake Williston. He said he figures he will hold the board to keep them away from him and spray pepper spray in their eyes. That's not Maumelle. That's not why people moved out here. That's not why we have our little children, our great-grandchildren, our grandchildren that we walk around. I don't walk them. I drive them someplace and then walk. I talked to a young mother after my attack, and she said that she was walking in Club Manor. A big pit bull broke away from the owner, and she didn't know what to do. She grabbed her child, put him on her shoulders. I said, well, the owner was close. She said, not that close. I said, what do you do now? She said, I don't walk that way anymore. People are changing their routes. They don't walk the way they used to anymore because they've been approached by dogs. I ask you to please get out, walk, talk to people. You represent everyone in your district. You don't just represent a few people.
Thank you, ma'am.
It's scary.
Next,
Could I ask her a question?
pardon me?
Could I ask her a question?
Certainly.
What breed of dog was it that attacked the dog there at Lake Williston?
I was told it was an Akita.
I don't know what that is.
An Akita,
Is that
a breed of dog?
is it a big dog, whatever? All right, thank you. Thank you for coming to speak tonight, and if you want to speak later on my ordinance, I hope the mayor will let you.
Okay.
But thank you very much.
Next is Ashley Washam. Name and address for the record, please, ma'am.
Hello, I'm Ashley Washam. I live at 3 Arnold Palmer. I have lived in Maumelle and been a proud resident for 26 years. My husband has served on the Planning Commission, and I was on the Inclusive Playground Committee with many of you. One of the best things about Maumelle is the community that we have to be a part of. And through friends from Mommy and me, I started running 20 years ago, and it has grown into a huge part of my life. I have trained for 3 dozen half marathons and 2 full marathons on the trails and streets here in Maumelle. I have enjoyed every minute of my time running through Maumelle. My best friend Peppa has 4 legs and runs with me, and it's the highlight of her day. Unfortunately, on March the 23rd, that drastically changed. When we were towards the end of our run, we turned on Victoria Circle, and I saw a large brown dog charging towards us off of the porch on that street. I started yelling for the dog to get back as I was trying to pull my dog to safety. The dog immediately went for my dog's ear, and I started yelling and screaming for help and tried to get my dog away from the dog. The dog grabbed her neck and would not let go. An older couple ran out to help me. The man sprayed pepper spray on the dog to get her to release my dog. It did nothing. The lady was helping me hit the dog to try to get her off of Peppa. The man ran back to the garage, had to get a boat paddle, and hit the dog 5 times in the head to get it to release Peppa. The lady helped me get into their garage with Peppa while her husband dealt with the dog. Peppa was bleeding terribly, and I honestly thought she was going to die with all the blood that was coming from her. They opened the garage when my husband arrived, and the look of fear on his face when he saw me and Peppa covered in blood is one I won't soon forget. We were told by the animal control people they knew this dog, which raised even more concern. The dog had been out Thursday and Friday, and Maumelle Animal Services had given her a citation due to it and a citation addressing issues with her fence. We took Peppa to the emergency vet, and $1,004.90 later, she was okay. She had to have her ear stitched, stitches in her tongue and her jaw. She had to have stitches on her chest and neck, and a drain put in her neck. We were told she would need to be watched constantly until the drain came out in 5 days. These are my shoes from the incident. I mean, this is just a small part of the blood that was there. I was unable to go to school for 4 days, and my administration spent a lot of time in my room helping with the stressed autistic students due to me not being able to be there due to taking care of Peppa. Having a substitute for me is $95 a day. I had scrapes, scratches, and a swollen bruised wrist that required an x-ray just to check for a possible break. Peppa has had to have a second surgery on her ear due to the stitches not healing well. She has lost a part of her ear permanently. She also has a fear of going outside that we're having to work through with the guidance of her vet. Unfortunately, I was able to reach out to a longtime friend for guidance of what to do due to her husband and dog being attacked here in Maumelle 2 years ago. He received 18 stitches and their dog died. I have not slept without nightmares since March the 23rd. I would not wish this experience on my worst enemy. I now have to run with bear spray and pepper spray due to my increased fear due to this attack. I also have ordered a small handgun for my safety. I love to run, but I should not have to go to these extreme measures for my safety. Maumelle has always been a great town and is a great place. I feel like we have shined landing the Tractor Supply Warehouse, and from what I heard, a fantastic event for the eclipse. I think there are some things that Maumelle needs to look at. The codes for fences need to be revisited. Is it the neighbor's job to submit the report to see it, click it, or does code enforcement check this? We have numerous fences in my neighborhood and in others that are falling down. When you drive down Edgewood to come to City Hall, you see lots of fences about to fall down. You can drive down Arnold Palmer and see the fences not being held up well or missing boards. There were issues with the fence where the dog lived that attacked us. A dog got into a backyard the same week and was killed by the dog that lived there due to a missing board in the fence. A student at my school lost part of her finger due to a dog bite, and that fence had issues as well. I would also like the breed-specific ban to be revisited. There have been 4 attacks, and I'm guessing there's more from sitting here. Maumelle is adding numerous trails and bike trails, which are very attractive to bikers and runners. But having to carry bear spray or a gun is not what most of them do. We must have things in place to keep people safe and their animals safe that will be accessing these trails. I proudly helped bring the inclusive playground into the city, and I want to make sure these children can play safely as well. Thank you for your time, and my hope is that no one else has to stand up here and tell a story to you like mine.
Thank you, ma'am. Gary Washerman.
Hey guys, I'm Gary Washerman, 3 Arnold Palmer. My guest, Ashley's husband. I'm going to hand out a few things here, and I will tell you, I was on the Planning Commission for like 10 years, and I have to admit I've not really been involved in city government in quite a while for various reasons.
Can you speak in the mic, David?
I know you guys have some difficult decisions to make, and it's not always popular with a lot of the citizens of Maumelle. But I do want to express that there are, this issue with the dogs is, it's getting out of hand. The very week that my wife was attacked, that Monday morning, I walked out to go get in my car to go to work, and there was a enormous dog come running down the street, come running through the neighbor's yard at me, and I've got a recycling bin in one hand and a bag to get in my car, and I'm thinking, is he just happy to see me, or am I about to get mauled? Have no idea. I kind of yelled at him, he stopped and ran off, you know. My guess, he's probably just a big happy dog running around. But you don't know. Also, that very week, we saw some other dogs running around, you know, just not harming anybody. One of them's just a little dog, just kind of being a nuisance to some other people walking their dog. And then this situation happened with Ashley. And guys, I'm telling you right now, when I walked in that garage, I didn't know what was about to happen. To see my wife laying in a pool of blood, I didn't know if it was hers. It was so bad EMS didn't know whether it was hers or not. There was blood on the people's car, on the wall, on their floor, on them. And they're just the people that just happened in front of their house. And they're trying to help her, and thank God that they did. EMS had to go through and use bags of saline, shooting it in the people's eyes, Ashley's and others, because of the pepper spray, which once again did not work. He emptied an entire thing of pepper spray on this dog. It never let go of her throat. And he expressed to me he didn't know whether the boat paddle was going to work. So eventually, when I get there, animal control and the police were there, EMS was there, other residents had assisted and helped and got the dog. You guys need to understand these dogs, some of these dogs are huge. That dog, I'd be willing to bet, weighs as much as my wife does. And I'm somewhat happy that it went for another dog as opposed to her. We see other people here that's not been as lucky, and it's becoming an issue. One of the things that I've learned during this is that there were some restrictions on and bans on certain breeds. I haven't looked into it. I don't know what all those breeds were. I know some of the issues that I've heard here tonight. And ultimately, I think it's got to be revisited. And I don't think it's just specifically one breed, but violent dogs, vicious dogs in general. Now, what I will tell you is these articles that I printed out and evidence-based research, peer-reviewed research for a number of years, every single one of them say the exact same thing. Pit bulls are the most aggressive of any breed. And it's like 35% of the time, they're the main breed over all others combined. Now, I'm sure there's super nice pit bulls, and we just haven't had that encounter. But my concern is just vicious dogs as a whole. And, you know, as I jokingly told Mr. Mosley, for years we've had Basset Hounds and Beagles. Ain't one time one of them attacked somebody. So there is something about certain breeds of dogs that I believe can be vicious, especially when they're as large as they are. And Ashley made a good point about the fences. There are a lot of fences that are in disrepair around the city. I know things happen. I was telling Mr. Mosley, I know a limb fell from one of the trees. It's technically in the Greenbelt area, and it's hit my fence, and I'm going to have to replace part of it. It's not down, but it is damaged. I just think that we've got to address some of these things moving forward before somebody gets hurt. And I will tell you, I was driving home today, and I got the phone call that the handgun that was ordered for Ashley's here. I'm telling you right now, I'm not getting mauled. So
Thank you, sir.
you guys are either gonna have to address it, or the citizens are gonna address it for you.
Thank you, sir. Next, public comment card, Fred or Mary Payton.
How about both?
Or both. I was just reading as said. Name and address for the record, please, and you have 3 minutes.
Fred Payton, 155 Hibiscus Drive. We've lived there for 27 years, been in Maumelle for 40 years. I have, first of all, I'd like to say that I'm sorry to hear about these stories of the attack on their dog. You know, any size dogs, I'm 80 years old. I've seen little dogs bite people. I've had Schnauzer bite me. I've had German Shepherds bite me. A lot of it depends on the way the dog was raised. But my thing here in Maumelle, like I say, I've been here and walking dogs around Lake Willistine for 27 years. I've had 3 dogs that I've walked around the lake. And the key that I see happening is that people don't have their dogs on a leash, and they'll go running and attack another dog or a person. I saw, y'all will remember, some of y'all will remember the gentleman that had the little dog, and he would always come into City Hall years ago with his dog, and he pulled into Lake Willistine one day with his dog, and there were some people from out of town that had a German Shepherd. German Shepherd was not on a leash, and he made a run for that little dog and killed it so fast that I couldn't do anything. And so I've seen all of that happen, and the key issue for me as a dog owner, I pay a lot of money for my fence. My dog can't get out. I also walk him on a leash that I can draw up to 1 foot. I think that enforcing the leash law and enforcing the fences for people that have dogs, and that falls back to animal control. And I know that could cost a lot of money to start enforcing things like that. But I think enforcing if people have a dog, they have to have a yard that can keep that dog inside, and it has to be inspected. We have to license our dogs, so why not inspect the home after we license it? You know, you gotta go in, you license your dog, and then go out and inspect the fenced area. Tell the owners that the only way the dog can be out is if it's on a leash. The other thing is, one of the issues I saw is euthanizing a dog that's on the run after 48 hours. I think that ought to be extended to, if it's not a vicious dog, I think it ought to be extended to 72 hours to give someone like this lady back here that loves her dog, and like me who love my dog, if it gets out, it's a big town, and give them time to pay the fine or whatever and pick their dog up, because people do love their dogs. And I would venture to say that there are probably more dogs in Maumelle than people, because I see people every day with 2 or 3 dogs out walking them. I just have the one, but I just think we need to consider the fact that most people that have a dog, most people love their dog, and we should be respectful of that issue along with everything else. If a pit bull attacks a person, then to me that pit bull needs to be picked up, tested for rabies, and then find the owner and check his fenced-in area, and a significant fine to make him want to take care of his dog and make sure that his dog's up. But that's all I got to say.
I got, may I? Can I
Certainly.
talk on his time? How much time?
Well, his time is long gone, but we'll give you
I do want
time.
to know about the Akita story, though. I'm sorry, I'm done. No,
Okay.
done.
Thank you.
All All right, I'll go ahead and open the floor for, I'll give you one more chance. Everyone else is gone so far. You want to jump up? Okay. Name and address for the record, please, ma'am.
My name is Genty McDaniel, and I live at 191 Diamond Point Drive. Linda Kesey is my friend. The night she was attacked, she called me and said, Lee, I've just been attacked by 2 pit bulls at my front door. And I said, Linda, do you need me to come? And she said, yes, please. That was about 20 minutes after her attack that she called me. When I got there, she was still trembling. She owns a little dog. She no longer walks. Or when she walks, she's very careful and very aware of where she is. She's scared to walk her dog. I own a little dog. I'm no longer able to walk. So I adopted a dog that can't be walked. He's got a birth defect. He's missing a bone in his hip, and my vet recommends he not be walked. Mr. Mosley, I appreciate the effort every one of you have put into this, but there are weak spots in what the new proposal is. Number one, we're going to have animal services interviewing people involved in a dog attack. What kind of training do they have to tell whether someone or not is being truthful? Have they been to any Wicklander and Zulaski courses? Done anything to be able to tell interview techniques? They need that training if you're going to put the responsibility of being the one to determine truthfulness on our animal service people. We have police department people that are trained in that, I'm sure. Someone in almost every police department is. Maybe we need to transfer the interview responsibility of the people involved to the police department that have the training to do those interviews. I've been through the interviews and through all the training for the interviews, so I know what to look at when someone's lying to me. And there are several tales that they will give you. Please have someone doing the investigations that knows how to interview. That's the only way you're going to get to a basis of the truth. It won't always be the truth. I'm wrong sometimes when I interview people. I had someone stand toe-to-toe with me and lie to me. Went over my head. I did not see it. So it can happen to people that are trained. Don't let it happen to people somewhere putting that much responsibility on. The other thing is the insurance. Yes, I feel they need insurance. I don't feel like an owner whose dog has just attacked a person or another animal should be allowed to quarantine that dog for any period of time at their own home. If they got out once, they could get out again. You're inviting a second attack. Be careful what we're inviting in Maumelle. Insurance. If you have a large breed dog that has the ability to injure a person, property, or another pet, it needs to be insured. It needs to be heavily insured, at least for the amount the potential damages could be. You have a wealth of backgrounds in Maumelle of every kind of people. Several of us, I'm retired. You know, I don't do much except clean house every day, all day, because that's all I've got to do, and my grandkids are grown. So maybe it's time to look at calling on some of our people that live here to volunteer to fill in some holes or some gaps that maybe you need to inspect fences, not confront residents, but to just look at fences and have someone they report to. This is where I walked today, and these are the fences I saw need help. See it, click it, fix it is not taking care of all the broken fences. When you walk by, you don't know whether there's a dog behind that fence or not, so I would just caution us, use our resources, because Maumelle has a lot of them. We've got a lot of good people that live here. Then the last thing, I'll get off of this. Years ago, I owned an American Staffordshire Terrier. It was just a big old puppy. I was sitting on the back deck, which was high up off the ground one evening, and I probably weighed between 110 pounds and 117 pounds soaking wet. And I was playing with the dog. He was an adult dog. He was a show dog. He came up to the back of the deck, jumped up with his feet on the deck, grabbed me by my wrist, dragged me off the deck and under it. And I couldn't stop him. He was that strong. I never had a leash that I could walk him on because he could snap every one I bought. Even the chains that I bought, I never bought one strong enough that I could hold him. And I wouldn't have been able to hold him if he didn't snap the leash because he would have been gone. He was that strong. The kicker was I came home one day, pulled in my car. My husband's truck was sitting in the driveway. The dog had jumped, it was summertime, and he had jumped through a screened-in window, jumped out a screened-in window, was sitting in the front seat of the truck, ready to go somewhere. They're strong dogs, strong-willed dogs, strong-minded dogs. Beagles hunt, pointers point, pit bulls like to fight. That's just the long and short of it. Okay, do you want me to address the Diamond Point property development, or you want me to save that for another day?
Do you have another, I'm sorry. Sure, we should have done that at the head of the meeting.
I just have a
Diamond
very
Point-
short thing I want to say. Back behind my house on Diamond Point, when it rains heavy, there's a creek inside of that property that is just running water. Then the drainage ditch right by the walking path also fills with water, covers the walking path. My backyard gets water standing in it, about that far up on my fence. Please make sure these engineers have studied it enough that there's a good drainage system put in back there, because if not, we're gonna have another community that's gonna be like all of the valley streets that are flooding. I'm not in a flood zone now, I really don't wanna be. So please caution them to take care of that. I appreciate the time. Thank you for your effort, Mr. Mosley. Mayor, I have one question for you.
Certainly.
Are you in,
I'm
were you,
hearing impaired, so I'm gonna step close to you. I read lips a lot.
okay,
Is that okay?
Sure, yeah, yeah.
I'll face you. Were you in law enforcement?
No.
Okay,
I was in, I worked for a major corporation in loss prevention and security.
okay.
So I was in charge of over 100 stores with the accidents, internal, external thefts, worked major recovery cases in New York City. So I had a lot of experience dealing with theft and with people that would lie to you about stealing.
Thank you very much. Thanks for coming in front of us tonight. I appreciate it very much.
Okay, I'll go ahead and open the floor for discussion on ordinance 1117 was directly initially spurred by the attack that the Washrams had. This was a dog that had been out in 2 consecutive days. Our ordinances didn't allow us to do anything about that except return that dog back to its owner. That incident, quite frankly, wouldn't have happened if ordinance 1117 was in place. It would have allowed the animal control to hold that animal, after it's out a second time in 30 days, animal control can hold that animal until they go to court, and there's some extra things taken care of to make sure that that animal can't just get out. That was, for animal control officers, also a very frustrating situation where we didn't arm them with the tools to protect and deal with an animal that we knew was out, and we were returning back to a place that it was going to probably get out again. So that's what spurred ordinance 1117. I'll go ahead and open the floor for discussion. Councilmember Gardner.
Thank you, Mayor. I may have some other questions later, but I guess for the mayor and or the city attorney, I'm looking at on page 5 of the ordinance, section L, no animal found at large and impounded should be released until, and then it goes through a list of things there. I guess my question is, like with the case with Miss Washam, that dog had been out multiple times, and animal control had already, I guess, responded once. This was the second time. Is there a provision?
It was the third time.
The third time, right.
Third consecutive day.
Yes. So is there a provision in this where if an animal acts aggressively the first time, and we're not waiting on a second time or a third time? I guess what I'm looking at here is it looks like when we go down further, section M now on page 6, it says that no animal found at large and impounded twice in a 30-day period, it won't be released to its owner until that's when they go out and inspect the enclosures. So I'm guess is there is there something in our code where if an animal does act aggressively, the first time they're picked up, that animal services could inspect enclosures? It seems like we have an Mr. Shin has referenced this multiple times, and it was referenced multiple times tonight. We have an enclosure issue a lot of the times where the dogs are not kept on their property. So I wonder if there is something in this that would allow for us to do that.
If I can maybe clarify some, the getting out twice in 30 days does not require dangerous behavior. It could be Tulip, the Yorkie, traipsing through the daisies. The second time that dog gets out in a 30-day period is a big red flag that we have an indication of different things. So the dangerous behavior is kind of not related to those two sections. With that, your question, Mr. City Attorney?
So I guess, Mr. Gardner, you're asking if a dog is at large and shows aggression while being at large, but not to such a level that it would be designated as a dangerous animal or a vicious animal?
I think by our code, we designate what dangerous or vicious is they've actually done something. And so I guess what I'm asking is, if an animal shows aggressive behavior the first time animal control picks them up, is that something we want to inspect their enclosure for, or do we leave it alone and say, well, hopefully it won't happen again? Maybe they'll get out again and then we can inspect their fence? And there's a fine line here, right? I mean, I don't think we need to, I don't necessarily want to promote running out and checking Dolly's fence every time she gets out because the front door is left open by the kids. That's happened to me. And so I just, you know, it's very frustrating when, like y'all said, this incident happened and this was the third time within a span of a few days that the same dog was out. And so I'm wondering how we can help head that off in the future possibly.
So it looks like actually I'm looking at 10-81, which gives definitions for the animal control provisions. And one of the ways that a dog could be designated as a dangerous animal by animal services, is that if the dog unprovoked chases, confronts, or approaches a person in a attacking or menacing fashion, which sounds like what you're describing.
Right.
So merely by that, if animal services is informed of that, they can designate it as a dangerous animal. And then part of the changes in this proposed ordinance 1117 is that when animal services designates a dog as a dangerous animal or a vicious animal, and then it is in animal services custody, it is not returned until the dangerous animal requirements are complied with, or if the designation has been appealed to the city council reverses it. And among the requirements for dangerous animal are an enclosure inspection. And it also has special requirements for enclosures.
Okay.
So to answer your question, yes, and under this proposed ordinance 1117, it would require an enclosure inspection.
Okay.
Along with the insurance requirements and the other requirements.
And that's really what I was getting at is, does animal control have the ability now, or even with this, to say we need to do something before they get out a second time? But you're saying that they do. They can.
If there's aggression.
If there's,
yes.
Right, okay.
If there, yes.
Okay.
So if there's aggression, yes.
And they could have done that previously, if what I'm understanding, right? Or no?
On this specific incident, I don't think the first two times there was any indication of aggression. It was just an animal at large.
Right, okay.
Which
Very
is
good.
by itself an issue, I agree.
Yes, okay. And that's what my understanding as well, that it had not shown aggression, so, but, yeah. Okay, thank you, sir. I appreciate your answers there.
Councilmember Gronwald?
Yeah, I've got a couple questions, kind of similar to Councilmember Gardner. So on section, let's see, number 3, subsection F, I guess, kind of what Mr. Payton was talking about. I'm super concerned and don't feel comfortable with the 48-hour euthanization from unclaimed strays. That does not seem like enough time to me. I just envision a family being, you know, unfortunately on vacation or something and coming back and to find out that their dog has been euthanized. I don't think that's near enough time. So that was one thing that I wanted to say. I mean, we can talk about that, but I feel really strongly about that. And it kind of also goes with Section 4, subsection C, and then also E, talking about 5 working days. That doesn't seem like enough to me. So I'm very concerned about that, but even more so about the 48 hours. That's not nearly enough time. And then it goes on page 5, subsection E is continued on page 5, that if an animal is not reclaimed by its owner within 5 working days, it's then at the discretion basically of the animal, the Office of the Animal Services, to either put it up for adoption for a suitable home or humanely euthanized. So that concerns me very much. And then lastly, on that same page 5, subsection G, if upon conviction of a 4th violation of an animal at large, unsterilized animals may be sterilized at the owner's expense by a license. I fully support that 100% because we have concrete data that shows that unsterilized animals can potentially be more aggressive than sterilized. My thought with that is, or my concern, is that we're waiting for 4 violations. So I'm not really comfortable with 4 violations. To me, it should be like on the 2nd, possibly 3rd violation, but by 4 violations, something more serious could have occurred.
If I could chime in, so the section 3, subsection F regarding unclaimed stray animals, just heads up, that's been in the city code for ages, and then the city attorney, I think, had a comment on that.
Yeah, I was going to suggest, Ms. Grunwald, if you'd like me to, I can draft an ordinance of your name that would just change it to 5 days, including one Saturday.
Okay.
That would make it consistent. I think that subsection F is intended for stray animals that bite. It is a little confusingly written, I think, unclaimed stray animals,
Yeah.
because stray by definition means that it doesn't have an owner.
Right.
So I agree that it could be clearer. And I think probably for consistency's sake, it should be 5 days. Would you like me to draft an ordinance for you?
Yeah,
Okay.
And the reason I'm super sensitive about this too is because one of my dogs got out and has occasionally gotten out. She's Houdini, actually around the holidays, and it would just be my absolute nightmare that something like that were to happen to any other family. Thankfully, my neighbor saw it on one of the Maumelle pages, and she was picked up really quickly. And she is chipped and sterilized and all of that. But when reading that, I worry that could get loopholey.
Yes, ma'am.
So that section has been in the code for a while, and then in section 4, the any animal not reclaimed by its owner for 5 days has been there, and then the conviction for the 4th violation of animal at large. Those are all existing things that we can change, but that isn't being changed by this ordinance. Councilmember Mosley?
Yeah, several things here. I just wanted to comment a little bit about the Ashley Washam incident. This was a lady that was minding her own business, just running through Maumelle, doing what we're trying to do here in Maumelle with all of our walking paths and all the things that consultants have told us we need to do. And the dog had already been out that day, and actually the reason I think they already had pepper spray out was because it was already bothering a dog in that vicinity. And so that dog was already being aggressive. The neighbors had to hit that dog with a canoe paddle, I don't know, 5, 7 times, something like that, to get it to turn loose of their dog. It was just locked on, as pit bulls can do, and was doing serious damage to it. And I'll mention also my wife will not walk in that area. We've got little grandkids, and they were here visiting last summer, and she had already heard there were pit bulls over in that area, and so we don't walk on those paths over there in the in that area there south of Victoria. So there's problems. Now looking at this ordinance, I got 2 or 3 things here. There's a page 9. There's $1 million insurance for vicious dogs. I assume that's new. Is that correct, Mr. Thornton?
No, sir. It's moved from, it was previously in the following section, and just for sake of consistency, it should have been under vicious animals, section 10-133.
Okay. I talked to the animal control gentleman today, Chris Davis. He was nice enough to call me back. He was actually at a conference over in Memphis or something. But he described this as a way, there's some appeals process in here that involves the city council. And one of the things he touted was that it would expedite things, this ordinance, and perhaps draw in the city council on some decisions as opposed to having to wait for the court system to come around. Would you say that's the case?
Yes, sir. Currently, the city code, if a dog is designated as dangerous or vicious, it carries all these additional requirements. The owner can petition to have the Maumelle District Court review that. I've not had one of those in the last year and several months. When the mayor asked me to consider proposed revisions to this chapter, this caught my eye because when we talk about other administrative appeals, like the city clerk revokes a permit or denies a permit, the appeal is to the city council. And I thought, again, for sake of consistency, the appeal in this situation should be to the city council.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to share with us? Good, bad,
it requires a 2/3 majority vote, which is to reverse the designation, which is the same 2/3 majority if the city clerk denies a permit. It will be at the next, the appeal will be heard at the next regular meeting unless it's within 10 days or so, or unless it's within 7 days. And then at Mayor Norris's request, we put in a requirement that when the owner submits a written request for an appeal, they have to detail the reasons why they think the designation should be reversed. So that'll give the city council an idea of the supposed reasons why.
All right. One more question here. On page 8, there on item C, section 6, item C, talks about euthanization, and this was marked out. This is a change to mark that out. Is that somewhere else in the code? Did you move that?
That's another situation where I thought it didn't make much sense putting it in the middle of this paragraph that talks about kind of compliance and notification. So it's moved under the animal bite section, which is on page 4 of this ordinance, and it's moved to a new subsection G.
Okay. Okay, I'll probably have some motions if this, well, never mind. I'm through on this one tonight. Thank you.
Councilmember Shin?
I wanted to address what Councilmember Cromwell said and support the changes in the length of time there. In the past, I wouldn't have thought much about that, but during spring break, over 7 days, I had 12 hours of cell service. So if there'd been an issue, Chris couldn't have got in touch with us, my dog sitter couldn't have got in touch with us, and there would have been no way to address that properly. So I do like the idea of changing that to the 5 days over Saturday.
Thank you, sir. Is there any additional discussion on ordinance 1117? Councilmember Gardner?
I guess just a question for Councilmember Grunwald and Shin. I agree with y'all's comments as well. Is that something that the council should make a motion to amend these tonight, or should we proceed with this one and then have a separate ordinance at a later date to amend that language?
Can I offer my?
Yes, please.
I recommend a separate ordinance just because it's easier if you have the text in front of you in black and white.
Oh, absolutely.
It'll be on first reading next time.
Yes, that separate ordinance would be on first reading.
Would there be any interest in suspending the rules and having all three readings on this tonight?
I would second that.
I'll make a motion to suspend the rules and have all three readings of ordinance 1117 tonight.
I'll say yes.
Councilmember Mosley?
Yeah, depending on how my ordinance goes, I probably have some amendments I want to propose at the next meeting if we don't read it all in three readings tonight. Basically, I think we need to put, consider breed as far as dangerous and when it's categorized as dangerous, that sort of thing. Some ducks come into Maumelle dangerous and they don't get designated as such till they've already bitten somebody. And in the case of pit bulls, I don't know if any of these attacks we've had, the pit bull was already deemed dangerous. So still in the 3 strikes and you're out thing, those dogs are just totally different than other dogs here in Maumelle. So I think we need to do that. Thank you.
Right, I have a motion and a second to waive the requirement and have the second and third reading tonight. Any additional discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes. Yes.
All opposed, no.
No. Can we have roll call?
Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Mosley?
No.
Councilmember Grunwald?
Yes.
Councilmember Mazzoni?
No.
Councilmember Gardner?
Yes.
Councilmember Williams?
Yes.
Councilmember Tierney?
Yes.
Councilmember Shin?
Yes.
Councilmember Holt?
Yes.
Motion passes. Madam City Clerk, please give the second and third reading.
Ready? Be it enacted by the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled Ordinance Number 1117, an ordinance to amend Maumelle City Code provisions concerning penalties for violating Chapter 10, animal bites, animal licenses, animals at large, dangerous and vicious animals, and for other purposes. Be it enacted by the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled Ordinance Number 1117, an ordinance to amend Maumelle City Code provisions concerning penalties for violating Chapter 10, animal bites, animal licenses, animals at large, and dangerous and vicious animals, and for other purposes.
All right, so we've now had our second and third reading. I'd entertain a motion to adopt ordinance 1117. Got a motion and a second. Is there any additional discussion? Councilmember Shin?
We used to take our dogs to Williston quite often. And we have not done that in almost a year and a half. Because every time we're there, and I do mean literally every time, there is someone there with a dog off leash. Because of that, I got in touch with Chris, and I haven't had, Chris Davis, I have not had an update of the numbers, but we sat down about a year ago and crunched the numbers, and wards 2 and 3 have minimal problems with dogs off leash. Ward 4, the problem is escape dogs. They get out through bad fences. But in Ward 1, it is people who intentionally walk their dog off leash. So giving a bite, so to speak, to animal control to enforce and give them more tools to work with, I think is a great idea. Because I would love to take my dogs to the lake again. My dog likes to swim. But
I know we don't allow people swimming in the lake, but.
You let the geese?
We don't, they're not permitted. I've disallowed them. No. Thank you, sir. Councilmember Gardner?
Just one of my frustrations with this whole thing has been that Animal Services did not have any ability to prevent what happened and what could happen. And so the wheels of government can move extremely slowly, and I think this was something that I thought was important that we passed tonight. And I think it should certainly be amended. I mean, I think that there's some things in there that could be cleaned up, and so we can deal with that at our next meeting. But I just, I appreciate y'all voting to at least have a vote on this tonight so we can start giving Animal Services some more options. Thank you, sir.
Councilmember Mosley?
Yeah, just a quick point, Mr. Shen, if you wouldn't mind, pull your microphone up. I very rarely can hear everything you say. Thank you.
If there's nothing further, we've got a motion and a second to adopt ordinance 1117. Madam City Clerk, roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Mosley,
Yes.
Councilmember Grunwald,
I have a question. I'd like to vote yes for this with the understanding that we are building some amendments, right? So if voting yes is not voting for this as it is.
Voting yes for this ordinance adopts it as is. However, just as a clarification, the bulk of the complaints you had were already in the city code. So voting no against it.
I understand that, but I still want to change them.
And so the city attorney said he'll have an ordinance for you at the next city
Right,
council
so I'm voting for this now, and then we're gonna build something that will amend.
Ma'am, the same sections,
Okay,
yes.
okay, yes.
Those changes that you requested, yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
perfect, thank you. Yes.
that was yes, thank you. Councilmember Mazzoni,
Yes.
Councilmember Gardner,
Yes.
Councilmember Williams, Councilmember Tierney,
Yes.
Councilmember Shin,
Yes.
Councilmember Holt.
Yes.
Motion passes. Ordinance 1117 is adopted, and thank you to the city council for adopting this swifter than even I would have asked for, just to prevent these sorts of situations from happening quite as often. Councilmember Gardner?
Just a question on this, Mayor. I understand this law would not go into effect immediately, would it not?
It goes into effect, the council recently extended the effective date, so it doesn't go into effect until, are we at 60 days, Mr. City Attorney?
It'll be
So-
effective 61 days after today.
That brought up my next point. Would a motion to declare an emergency and have this go into effect immediately, would that be the proper motion so that they could begin enforcing this?
If I could, I believe the declaration and the reasons stated for a declaration of emergency need to be included in writing in the ordinance.
I think so.
Okay.
So I don't know if we can now.
Could we have a separate one in 2 weeks? Can you do it that way? Or do you have to have it written in the original ordinance?
Yes, Mr. City Attorney, what say you?
I don't know, but I'll look into it. If it were so for example, we call it ordinance 1130 or whatever number it is, it says ordinance 1117, which was adopted on April the 15th, regular meeting, shall go into effect immediately, and here's the emergency clause. Is that what you're describing?
It sounds like a great resolution if it's legal. So if you'll check on that
I'll
in
check
like
on
2
that.
weeks.
Yes,
I have a question. Would we need to waive the 3 readings on that ordinance?
Yes, sir.
And then declare an emergency in that ordinance as
Yes,
well?
sir.
All right, thank you.
Councilmember Williams?
Well, it would make sense to me that we add it to Christine's ordinance, if that's possible, for the amendments to this one, right?
I think so.
I mean, that would be cleaner. It would already be put in motion.
that could work. The downside of that then is it requires that ordinance to have the three readings waived and an emergency declared on that for the additional part. I think it would make more sense, which you may end up with a council that unanimously thinks all those changes end up good, but it's not an emergency and they want the publication and the public to chime in and whatnot. I'd split it if it were me.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much. We will move, Councilmember Mosley.
Yeah, I wanted to say I voted for this because it's at least a step in the right direction, and it's a general ordinance. It's not specific to anything. So basically, any dog that's misbehaving is going to get looked at. But it doesn't address pit bull dogs. It doesn't address anything that would prevent these people that have been here tonight from being attacked. So thank you.
Well, I disagree. We talked about how the dog that got out for the Washams was one that we could have stopped for Miss Kesey. Those dogs were pit bulls, and we hadn't had any notice of those, so far as I know, getting out recently. So it would have resolved the one of the two situations.
They were not even designated as dangerous dogs.
They weren't even designated.
Yes, ma'am. So with that, we will move on to the first reading of Ordinance 1117 regarding penalties for violating city code. Oh, no, that's the one we just did. We'll move on to the first reading of Ordinance 1118, amending Chapter 94.1 of the zoning regulations. Madam City Clerk, if you could please read that by title only.
Be it enacted by the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled Ordinance Number 1118, an ordinance to amend the Maumelle City Code zoning regulations to provide for outdoor amusement and recreation establishments and for other purposes.
The title pretty much says this in its entirety. I'll go ahead and open the floor for discussion. Councilmember Mosley.
Yeah, this is, I have no problem with this ordinance, and the thing that follows it here is depending on this to be passed, so that's all fine. And this is a miniature golf course that would be over in the, across the boulevard from about where we are right now. And I think it would be really nice to have this here in Maumelle. So unless there's problem with, well, I'll take that up on the next one. I think this is a fine ordinance to have so we can have stuff like that here in Maumelle.
Anything further? This will be on second reading at the next city council meeting. Next item of business is Resolution 2024-14, approving a conditional use permit. Madam City Clerk, if you could please read that by title only.
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, a resolution to be entitled Resolution Number 2024-14, a resolution to approve a conditional use permit for an outdoor amusement recreation establishment to be built on Lot 3, Maumelle Commercial Park Addition, in the City of Maumelle and for other purposes.
Is Mr. Andrews here? I'm not sure if he wanted to say anything on it or not. I'll go ahead and open the floor for discussion. Councilmember Williams?
I make a motion to approve resolution 2024-14, adopt it.
We've got a motion and second to adopt. Councilmember Mosley?
Yeah, I wanted to ask whoever's representing the applicant here. I had
Mr.
a
Andrews?
couple of questions.
Roy Andrews, 200 Casey Drive. And I have the
Philip Munson, H&M Partners, 13409 Oneida Way.
Okay, thank you for coming tonight. The only thing I'm worried about is mainly noise. Is there going to be loud music playing? Is this kind of a high intensity type golf course, or is this kind of the old traditional that we all?
I would like to have some music, but not too loud.
Okay.
We would be subject to the city ordinances that restrict, loud music over certain, decibel, and we would also be restricted by time on that as well.
Time, but,
And I'm sure if there are complaints, Scott Grimmer will get a call, or the police will get a call, and the city will be out to enforce it.
okay, I would encourage you to be cognizant of all that, so. Anything else that's going on here, the fireworks or anything like that?
No fireworks.
All right. Hole-in-one fireworks? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Williams?
On this resolution, this the third whereas and this section 2 on the back of, on the second page. It should be proposed ordinance number 1118 on both of those. Needs to be filled in.
I've got a motion to amend resolution 2024-14 to add in the resolution number of 1118 in both the third whereas and in section 2 of the resolution. Do I have a second on that?
Second.
I've got a motion second. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. Resolution is amended. Mr. City Attorney, would that constitute a material change requiring the resolution to be reread? Or is it?
No, I don't think.
No, I agree. Any additional discussion on resolution 2024-14? Councilmember Mazzoni?
Yeah, is this resolution tied to that ordinance?
It is conditioned upon the approval of that ordinance, yes.
I think it's a great idea.
If there is nothing further, we have a motion second on the floor to adopt resolution 2024-14. All those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. Resolution 2024-14 is adopted. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hope to see it soon. All right, that brings us to the first reading of ordinance 1119, amending the city code regarding certain breeds. Madam City Clerk, if you could please read that by title only.
Be it enacted by the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled ordinance number 1119, an ordinance to amend the Maumelle City Code to prohibit possession of certain dog breeds and for other purposes.
Councilmember Mosley, this is your ordinance.
Mr. Mayor, could we open the floor to any more comments that some of the people that commented tonight might want to make, something they forgot to say? Is that possible?
Sure. Does anyone want to make public comments on this? Come on down.
Hi,
Name and address again for the record, please.
Linda Kazee, 46 Oak Forest Place. The dogs that bit me were not even considered dangerous dogs now. This was an attack. I didn't even see them. How do you get this changed? They live down the street from me. They're all intact. I don't know if they're breeding dogs down there. Someone asked, why don't you go down there and talk to them? I'm going to go down to a house that has 3 pit bulls, and 2 of them have already attacked me. I don't think so. How do I get their designation changed? Now, I mean, you did this now. Can I get it changed to a vicious dogs now? I mean, the
Mr.
bite
City
wasn't
Attorney.
bad enough.
Mr. City Attorney.
I can ask Chris Davis. So the code gives the Office of Animal Services that responsibility of deciding whether to designate an animal dangerous or vicious.
But this one isn't even designated dangerous.
Right, even after the bite. Right, but I mean, I think she's asking even after the bite. Right.
any vicious dog, but a certain breed of vicious dog.
I'm sorry, what?
Ma'am, are you saying that, are you asking why or the Office of Animal Services didn't designate it as dangerous after the attack?
Well, I guess it's
before.
because of the rules. No, not after the attack.
Not after, but before.
No, why, after the attack, after I was attacked, it says that the dangerous animal designation is not warranted due to the nature of the wound, not needing stitches, first offense, and the suspect is cooperative. He said that one of the dogs belonged to his sister, one belonged to a girlfriend, they weren't even his. One was 3 months old, one was 7 months old. By this time, those things must be humongous. If one of them was 60 pounds and one was 80 pounds.
We don't have that information with us tonight as to why it wasn't made that determination. We'll run this past animal control. Hopefully he'll be here at the next council meeting.
Okay, and is there any way to make sure that these are neutered, spayed?
No, ma'am.
There's not, okay.
Is there?
In the new,
I'm unaware of anything. I'll let you look that up. Mr. Washington?
Yes. Gary Washam, 3 Arnold Palmer. First of all, I want to thank you guys for the previous ordinance and amendments that's gone into place. I think it is a huge step forward to help everybody. One of the things I wanted to say before is we love animals. We love dogs by all means, and I want to hug and cuddle on a dog right to the point that they're attacking me. You know, I do. I truly love dogs. Again, this does seem to be an issue that many of us have had with a specific breed. I wish it were not that way. I was going through some things that I actually stumbled across earlier today. There was a DePaul University Law Review in which, honestly, they're against bans of any specific animals. However, I found it interesting that they went into this concept of even saying that Rottweilers and Pit Bulls cause 60% of the fatal attacks in this one time period of 1997 and 98. Today, Pit Bulls seem to be responsible for the highest number, and they've caused 45 of the 145 fatal attacks since 1999. The thing that I found interesting that I didn't know, and I've heard people in the past say that it's not the dog's fault, it's the owner. I think there is a little bit to that, depending on the dog itself, but what I did find, this began in the 19th century. These dogs were used and bred, and they were called bull baiting dogs, fight bulls. When that was outlawed, then gentlemen began dog fighting, if you can call them gentlemen. And so it's something that's been going on for 140 something years. I think I figured out. So it's not something that's going to change overnight for some of these dog breeds that are really innately bred to be fighting animals. And I hate that. I really do. But you know, I'm a guy that I have a degree in economics. I have an MBA, and I'm also a medical provider these days, and with a master's degree in that. Sadly, the numbers don't lie. That there are certain breeds that attack, that viciously attack, and some of that information I handed out was pictures from medical facilities, level 1 trauma centers, of maulings of children just being torn apart. And I truly wish that was not the case, and I wish people didn't do this to dogs to get them to be this way. But some people are irresponsible. The person that was involved with the dog that attacked Ashley and Peppa, that's an irresponsible owner of a dog that did not take things seriously. And innately, some people are stupid. That's just all there is to it. And we're going to have to do things to protect ourselves. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Mosley?
Yeah, basically, what we've got here is we've had 4 attacks since the city council passed the ordinance to, drop the ban on pit bulls and other specific dangerous dogs. And, they're gonna continue if we don't stop this. Basically, it hasn't worked. I know when you all passed the ordinance to begin with, it was, you said, oh, this is gonna make us even safer. We've got all these good procedures in here. It hadn't done so. And basically, the pit bulls attack. These aren't just dog bites, these are attacks. Every one of these 4 involved an attack, just an unprovoked attack. People out minding their own business in the neighborhood, trying to put their trash can out on the front porch, things like that. And we don't need those dogs here in Maumelle. And I think it's time to say, okay, we made a mistake. Let's go ahead and put that ban back on, because we've got too much at stake here. We're getting ready to do all this walkability, all these new trails, all this. We encourage everybody to get out and enjoy the outdoors. There's gonna be more people hurt. There's gonna be a lot more people hurt, and there are gonna be little kids hurt eventually. It's gonna happen. That's what it'll take probably to get a horde of people down here, storming the front doors on one of our city council meetings. It happened up in Cabot. That's what they did, is they stormed it and they said, we're not gonna lift that ban. But, anyway, what do you think, Gardner? You think it's time? Are you through? Have you seen enough?
Gardner?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Did you have anything else, Mr. Mosley?
Are you gonna vote for this ordinance?
You got the floor, sir, not me.
I'm asking you to respond.
Okay, well, I'm gonna move on. Councilmember Shin?
If I had known we were calling people in, I would have reached out to the 2 families that had a dog killed and a child sent to the hospital the same time this woman was injured. But they were attacked by German Shepherds, and that didn't fit your requirement here. So we're ignoring what happened with other breeds to bring back this. One of the arguments in the past was insurance. There's a handout back there about, from the National Association of Insurance Commissioners, about how they're changing their views on breed bans, and how State Farm looks at every animal individually with its history, not just because it is a certain breed. There's also something from the American Veterinary Medicine Association laid back there, and their position on this. And there's also 2 pages from a Harvard Law review that I was afraid would be too controversial. The whole thing is available if someone would like a copy. We do have copies. I just put the 2 pages I'm going to refer to. But it gives a history of breed bans. From the 1860s to the 1890s, bloodhounds were cited as the culprit in major dog attacks. In the 60s and 70s, that title applied to German Shepherds. Some of the discrepancy in terms of the numbers of bites reported may have been attributed to relative popularity of different dog breeds at different times. Still, many of these breeds, once considered to be most dangerous, are quite popular today, though they are no longer carrying the reputation as a dangerous dog. It is unlikely that a German Shepherd changed their behavior markedly beginning in the 1980s, when pit bulls began developing a negative reputation. And this goes on, and it gives a history, and it gives research that was done both overseas and in the United States. One breed-specific legislation study commissioned in Great Britain and in Spain found that pit bull bans had no effect at all on stopping dog attacks. The Spanish study went on to conclude that the breeds most responsible for bites, both before and after the bans, were those not covered by primarily German Shepherds. In 2003, Prince George's County, Maryland, formed a task force to conduct one of the most comprehensive studies in America to date. The study concluded that despite spending over $250,000 a year on enforcement, rounding up and destroying banned dogs, public safety had not improved as a result of the ban. The commission recommended that the ban be repealed. The Center of Disease Control and Prevention made the same recommendation in 2000, calling breed legislation inappropriate after looking at 20 years of historical data. President Obama, in a statement, also denounced such regulations as largely ineffective and often a waste of public resources. These findings have caused some communities to consider their breed-specific bans. However, many more remain in place. So, if you want to see anything I've referred to, if you want to see what Veterinary Medicine Association says or what insurance commissioners say, that's all back there. This is back there. If you want the whole report that came from, we've got it up here. We have done what I think was the appropriate thing to do. Tonight, we've put more teeth into that. If we didn't do the right thing, let's get a petition signed and let's get it on the ballot in November. But I understand that when we first lifted the ban, a petition was started and it couldn't even get 10% of the needed signatures. So, yes, we've had 4 people attacked, but we've also had other dog attacks in that same period of time. We've had animals killed, we've had animals that had to be destroyed, we've had people sent to the hospital. Just because they don't look a certain way, we're ignoring that. That is not appropriate, sir.
Whoa, hang on a second. Okay, if you had your button hit your button. Like if you're wanting to talk, because I lost the whole queue. Councilmember Mosley.
These 4 attacks wouldn't have occurred if we hadn't lifted the ban.
That is not true, sir.
That is truthful.
No, those 3 dogs were not
Mr. Shin, we give the, I
Why
know,
do I have to live by mine?
because I'm holding you to higher standards.
Thank you.
Mr. Mosley has the floor.
They would not have occurred because this ordinance wasn't, and you could debate the one with the Washings going forward, but these dogs wouldn't have been in Maumelle, they wouldn't have bitten anybody, they wouldn't have bitten any dog, they wouldn't have killed a dog. This is on you guys, the ones that brought, lifted the ban, it's on you. And some little kid's gonna get hurt here pretty soon, and it's,
got hurt the same time she got hurt.
and it's gonna be on you if it's a pit bull.
Okay, if it's an Akita or a German Shepherd, is that gonna be on?
Mr.
Sir?
Shin,
Yeah,
you have the floor.
thank you.
Okay, Ms. Kesey said that the dogs that attacked her were not registered in the city. Those dogs could have been here for 3, 5, 10 years. Their predecessors may have been here. Just because they weren't registered doesn't mean they didn't live here. There were all kinds of closet dogs in this town before that happened.
I believe those were puppies, though. You're not saying they've been.
Well, I'm just
or
saying
allegedly.
that pit bulls in general have been here just because they weren't legal, doesn't mean they weren't here.
That brings up a point. One of the issues we had with animal control when pit bulls were banned is that people would just not register them, so we wouldn't know who they are. Then the amount of people who had service animals that were pit bulls was pretty high. And just as a reminder, if someone claims an animal of any breed, a banned breed, if they claim that that animal is a service animal, we're allowed to ask 2 questions. Is the service animal required because of a disability? And what has that animal been trained to do? We're not allowed to ask whether what the disability is. We're not allowed to, have the dog perform it. We can ask those 2 questions. One of the problems we had is that kind of got out with some folks, and they just kept pit bulls here. They didn't bite, so it didn't rise to the attention. But there's been pit bulls, service animals, or just people that are unlicensed or animals that are unlicensed for a while. What we now know of is that we have more, that we know where those animals belong and who they belong to. Councilmember Tierney?
Yes, I'd just like to say I sympathize with everybody here who's talked about their attacks. I was attacked by a dog as a child, so I know what it's like to be in the jaws of an animal shaking you. And it was a German Shepherd. And so this is an issue I have paid close attention to my entire life. Used to be, it was Rottweilers, then it was Great Danes, now it's Pit Bulls. It's kind of like what Mr. Shin has said, the different types of dogs that everybody considers dangerous changes with what's popular. And so I'm an advocate of let's just put as many teeth of our own as we can into our zoning laws to, protect the public and do something about the dogs when we identify an animal as dangerous, because it's not just gonna be certain breeds, it's gonna, any dog can attack. And German Shepherds, I mean, if we go back, and one of the things I did when I was talking to Animal Services, most of our attacks happen with German Shepherds. They're not even being discussed tonight. And so, Labradors also are responsible for a lot of attacks. No mention of them. So, let's deal with all the dogs and protect everybody as best we can, because, nobody wants to be attacked. But of course, animals do attack. Unless we're going to completely ban all dogs, we're never going to be able to completely stop it. Well, let's give Animal Services the tools they need to do to address this as best we can.
Councilmember Gardner?
Thank you, Mayor. When I first started looking at this, I think it was back in 2018. I've not asked Animal Services to provide a report lately of breeds, and I know that's breeds that have attacked or bitten someone. And I know that's a very difficult position to even put Animal Services in, because oftentimes a dog can be multiple breeds. I think one of the attacks recently was referred to as a Heinz 57 in the official report, meaning it's just a mixture. But as Mr. Tierney alluded to, when I first started looking at this, if we were going to make our city safer, and by doing that meant that we were going to get rid of the dogs that bit most often, Labradors were at the top of the list in 18, followed by German Shepherds, and I don't remember where it went from there. And so I made the comment, if we are truly serving our citizens and going to make them safer, then we're going to get rid of Labs, because those are the ones that bit the most, because they're a popular dog. And these dogs that are listed on this are also popular dogs. And so naturally, when you have dogs that there's a lot of, it's just, I'm not a statistician, but, you're going to have more issues with dogs that there are a lot of. So, my Labrador that I had was 100 pounds. He was a big dog. He could pull you over. But he was, anyway. So, no, I'm not going to support a breed ban again. Will there be future bites by all dogs? Absolutely there will. While we continue to live and have our pets, there's going to be dogs that will be involved in a bite. It has been that way since the beginning of time. And banning a certain dog because of the way they look will not stop future dog attacks. And I'm not ignorant enough to think that by saying, okay, we're going to ban these dogs, poof, they're going to be gone. That's just not the way it works. They won't. It won't. So I really appreciate this council passing the previous ordinance that gives animal control more authority to deal with dogs that could be a potential danger. So I'll just leave it at that.
Councilmember Mosley?
Yeah, I talked to Chris Davis today. I think he said the best he could count. It's kind of hard to count. There's a lot of things, but the best he could come up with is about 56 pit bull related dogs here in Maumelle. Now that's about twice what they were last time I asked, which was probably a year and a half ago or so. So the numbers going up, so we're probably going to have more attacks. Instead of once a year, we're going to have every 6 months or every 4 months or something like that as these dogs come into town. I just, it really just boils down to, do you care for the safety of Maumelle? Do you want to take it back to as safe as it was 4 years ago before we lifted the ban? You want to do that? You want to look after these people? Do you care about these people that have been hurt? Do you even care about it? If you don't care about it, then yeah, you're just going to keep your pit bulls. But it's either the safety or you're going to go for equal rights for dogs or whatever this is. I'm not sure. So anyway, that's all I've got. Thank you. Oh, by the way, I make a motion that we read this three readings tonight, and one way or the other get this off our plate.
I've got a motion to waive the reading requirement and have the second and third reading requirement, or the second and third readings tonight. Is there a second on that? Motion fails for lack of second. Councilmember Holt?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. When we started this round several years ago about not allowing certain breeds, I was one of the leaders in that group. I've stayed out of the realm of this for a long time. But when I introduced the updated code for our animal control, I said back then that it was not about one dog. It's about all dogs. I also said that it is not a dog problem. It's a people problem. And sitting here tonight, and this is the only time I've said anything, I'm hearing voices are elevated. We're shooting out statistics. We're trying to outdo this one and outdo that one. We talk about Maumelle being a great city. Well, it's a great city for so long as we get to do what I want to do or I don't want to do. Folks, we got to stop. We're an educated city. We're civilized people. Anybody that can say that there isn't some kind of a problem here in our city is just not being rational. At some point, we're going to have to look each other in the eye and say, I want to, as the prophet Isaiah said to his people in a similar situation, come and let us reason together. We don't want to reason here tonight. We're split. And that is not, we had a prayer to our Lord Jesus Christ at the beginning. What did we pray about? We pray about the wisdom of the Lord. Show us your wisdom, Lord. Folks, this is not a pickleball game. Somebody's not going to win, somebody's not going to lose. We are going to lose if we can't be civilized and talk to each other. Everybody give in a little bit of something and make it work. Let's stop fighting each other. There's enough hatred in the world going on right now, worldwide. We don't need more. Let us have peace. And if we want to pray, just pray for peace and God's forgiveness. Forgive us of our anger, okay? Take out the dog issue and talk about each other. That's what we're here for, is to live together in peace and let us have happiness. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Tierney?
Yes, one other thing I'd like to point out about the changes with the new ordinance when we did get it passed and put it in place. I was talking to someone who's an expert on dogs, my lady postal carrier. I mean, who knows dogs better than your postman? And she said one of the things that she's seen is a major change in Maumelle since that ordinance was put in place. Before, she saw acts of animal cruelty all throughout the city. Now, about 4 years later, she doesn't see it at all. So there's an instance where it's working and it's working well. So I just wanted to add that because we're all kind of focusing on one issue, but there are other aspects of this as well. And the animal abuse and neglect has really been addressed in the city with the ordinance. And so that part of it is definitely working.
Councilmember Gardner?
Thank you, Mayor. I was going to make a motion to table ordinance 1119 indefinitely.
Second.
We've got a motion and a second to table ordinance 1119 indefinitely. Is there any discussion on that motion? Councilmember Mosley?
My question is moot now. I was going to ask, when you don't read something 3 times, does it mean we're going to go to second reading next week or whatever? But we'll see how this plays out. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any discussion on the, any additional discussion on the motion to table ordinance 1119 indefinitely? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All opposed, no.
No.
Roll call vote.
Councilmember Mosley?
No.
Councilmember Mazzoni?
Yes.
Councilmember Gardner?
Yes.
Councilmember Williams? Yes. Councilmember Tierney?
Yes.
Councilmember Shin?
Yes.
I'm stalling. Councilmember Holt?
Yes.
Motion passes. Ordinance 1119 is tabled indefinitely. That brings us to the next agenda item, the bridge name change, in honor of Robert Holloway. Discussion, Councilmember Gronwald.
What?
We're at the bridge naming.
Oh, yes, okay.
Floor is yours.
Well, I feel like everybody has probably heard this, and I think it's been brought up in here before. It has certainly been all over all the Maumelle social media pages, and so I just thought it was time for us to actually officially get this on the agenda and start talking about it. And I have a little bit of information that was provided to me by another community member, specifically talking about the suspension bridge at Lake Willistine. And it was kind of stated that a group of engaged citizens started talking about the desire to name the suspension bridge and memorialize it with like an attractive plaque. It was liked and commented by nearly 300 people, and then more conversations have kind of stemmed from that. So what we are proposing or wanting to talk about is potentially naming the suspension bridge for Robert Holloway, who, as I understand, designed it, not to mention his incredible contribution to the committee for so many, the community for so many years. So I just wanted to bring that up and see how everybody thought about it. There's a couple names that the community threw out there. One was just the Robert Holloway Suspension Bridge, but I just wanted to bring that up for discussion.
I'll go ahead and open the floor. Councilmember Gardner.
I have thought about this a lot as well, Ms. Gronwald, and, as we were renaming some streets and some different facilities for different people, that was well merited. I always had in the back of my mind Mr. Holloway, because he had such a huge impact on the way this city was literally designed and built. And seeing the pictures of him at Lake Willistine building that bridge, I forget if his son or daughter had shared that, but he cared a lot for what he was working to build here. And so I would completely support that. And I spoke with one of the members of the community that was really advocating for this at the I was going to call it the Bash on the Boulevard, Blackout on the Boulevard this past weekend. And, he was asking when it was going to happen. And I said, I wanted it to marinate and let people think about it. But I also said I thought the city needed to do it right and make a big deal out of this, because that bridge is stunning. It really is. It's beautiful. And I wanted to make sure we did it right, and the bridge looked its best before we did something like that. Mr. Holloway had a huge, I wish I had known him. I didn't know him. He passed away before I was really around and involved, but he did a lot for this city, for sure.
So, fun fact, I was talking to someone back in 2021 who wanted that to occur, and I remember reaching out to Parks and Rec about the condition of the bridge, and in 2021, the discussion was, it's going to need some serious improvements or replacement at some point. It's well past the prime of its life. And so I reached back out to that person and said, boy, I would wholeheartedly support the naming of this bridge if almost like a sponsorship of a stadium, if there were contributions to the city to help get the bridge into better shape. I was politely declined, as I understand. And so, but the whole reason of that story is, keep in mind, like, we don't know how much longer that bridge is going to be there, because there's no current plans to change it. But in 2021, when I asked about that sort of stuff, Park said it's going to need some improvements, and then improvements and or replacement in order to keep it sort of up to code. That said, I've been out there and it doesn't look like it's in all that bad shape, but I'm not the expert. Councilmember Williams.
Well, I'm all about naming things after people. It's my forte, and I think this is a very good idea. I will support it wholeheartedly. It's one of the best photo ops we've got in Maumelle. People have maternity pictures and family photos and Easter, I mean, it's just beautiful. And I'd like to see it in good repair. I would like to see it, you know, back to its former glory. I don't know that it would be realistic to wait to name it until we do something like that. I'd rather go ahead and name it. And I think it's a very good idea. I love it, actually.
Councilmember Tierney?
Yes, I agree with Member Williams that this is something that I think we probably should just go ahead and do now and get the repairs done at a later time.
All right, I think there's at least two ways to do it. I can think of two ways. One way would just be by a motion. Another, maybe more formal, would be through a resolution. Councilmember Mosley?
Yeah, I kind of go with you, Mayor. It might be best to get it in whatever pristine shape, you know, get it back to, before we go ahead and rename it or whatever, but I'm kind of with you on that.
I would just say that, to be clear, there's no current efforts, funding, or anything occurring to get it that way. I'm just putting it out there because a hypothetical scenario could be we name the bridge and then it completely changes or something. I hope not, because it looks beautiful, but more information. Councilmember Gronwald?
So I can't recall, how did we handle the naming of the baseball fields? Did it call for a resolution? So is that what you would recommend, that this would need a resolution, Mr. City Attorney?
Mr. City Attorney?
I'm happy to draft one for you.
Okay.
It would be cleaner.
Yeah. So I'm totally okay with that. I think that makes sense.
Cool. Anything further? All right, we'll move on to Madam City Clerk.
I'm sorry, Councilmember, I didn't understand which name you wanted to.
Well, I don't think we've decided on one yet. I think that will probably be in the resolution. Unless somebody, in this discussion, if anybody has a name that they really like.
Councilmember Gardner? Councilmember Gardner? Your button is revolting.
There we go.
There we
No,
go.
I was just gonna say, I think, before I don't think we should make a motion tonight. I think some research should go into that. Speak with the family, whether it's Robert Holloway, whatever, I think there should be some looking into that, and then whatever they support, I would certainly support, so.
Anything additional? All right, we'll move on to mayor's comments. The number one comment that I just wanted to talk about is we managed to survive the eclipse, which wasn't nearly as chaotic as some of the reports had originally been. I don't think the state saw many traffic jams anywhere. There was a few hot spots, especially after the eclipse. And so that was a bit, I was talking to someone, I was like, I don't know whether to feel disappointed or relieved that it was the way it was. I do know that the Blackout on the Boulevard event that was hosted at Lake Willistine was a tremendous hit, especially on Saturday, Sunday, Monday. We've received rave reviews about just the whole facility. Just as a reminder, I mean, we had police out there, fire, we had city employees galore, but it was an event primarily hosted by the Maumelle Area Chamber of Commerce, who did a magnificent event, and there were volunteers everywhere. I think for the next time we are in a total solar eclipse, we will be even better prepared for it. But just to every department head, volunteer, the chamber, to everyone that was involved in making that a success, wholehearted thank you. And then, not gonna lie, totality was cooler than I thought it would be. So, yeah, I wanted more.
8 minutes next time, right?
8 minutes next time. Council member comments. Councilmember Gardner?
Yeah, just to echo what you said, I know the traffic numbers were supposedly supposed to be in the millions, but I did meet people at Lake Willisteen on Monday that were from Louisiana, Kansas, and Kentucky, and that's just a few that I talked with, and I asked them why they came to Maumelle, and they were like, we just, we want to be close to Little Rock, and we kind of knew somebody at some point in time, so we just came. They stayed in our hotels, they ate our food, and they had a great time. And the number one thing that I heard from our residents is, why don't we do these more often? And I said, well, that's not in our control, the eclipse now, but I have never seen Lake Willisteen more full. I had to miss Tragically White, which I hated. But I heard it was packed. And then Sunday, I have never seen Lake Willisteen more full than I did this weekend. And it was just stunning to be out there at the lake for the eclipse. So Lake Willisteen put on a show for us, and I'm very appreciative to all those that worked and made it a success. And it was done on a skeleton crew of volunteers, by the way. A lot of city staff, but skeleton crew of volunteers, and it was a great hit.
Councilmember Holt?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This past Saturday, Saturday was a day like all Saturdays. Routine, you get out of bed and you have breakfast, but then I have to go to the grocery store. So I went to, it was a day like all days, went to Walmart, and everything was fine. On the way back, driving my truck, everything was just as smooth as it could be. As I came around the curve at Christian Brothers, all of a sudden, my truck took a little bit of a jump, and then that was it. It's as though all the gears went into neutral, and so I sort of coasted and got it whatever, and I got down to the intersection of the red light at Regents Bank. My truck was in the middle of the section, dead. So I called the police force, called the police department, and they sent an officer out, and I want to pay tribute, is the reason where we're going with this, to Sergeant Abby Lewis. Badge number 1564. Absolutely sensational. She got there. I had met her before our budget. She and I spent time together talking about the possible new things for the police force, raises and stuff. And so I already knew her. She stayed with me during the entire time, waiting for the record to get there. I had bought groceries. My truck had all these frozen stuff and everything in there. So the record got there pretty soon. She said, well, I'll take you home. And I said, well, I got all these groceries. That's all right. So she took me home, helped unload the groceries, and so stayed there until she was sure that I was secure and safe. I thought she went way beyond her duties. It's awesome to know that we have a force that they're our friends as well as our protectors, and I enjoyed her very much. We had a long conversation, and so I owe her a great tribute, and I want everybody to know. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Mosley?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about the eclipse celebration also. It was really, I was out there for 4 days. I was out there Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night, and then I came out there again on Monday, right before and then right after the eclipse. And it was a superb entertainment venue. Tragically White was really good. They were really good. And I enjoyed that immensely, and that was kind of by accident that we happened to be there at that time. But I think Kelly Walls hired all the entertainment, and I think that's what I understood her to tell me. And she needs to be in the entertainment business because she was good at that. All the people working the events were very polite and informative. Actually sat there, actually stood and talked to a gentleman manning one of the ATVs at the entrance, trying to just turn people away. But he was a real nice fellow, just visited away. So they were good welcomers to our community. So again, that was just a really great event. I have one more item if nobody else does.
You have the floor, sir.
Okay. Yeah, by naming the bridge, that also got me back to thinking I'd forgotten. I had mentioned way back there when Mark Lowry died that we needed to name something after him. He was our state rep for quite a few years, represented us well, got elected in a landslide to state treasurer's position, and so he was a successful politician out here, and I think he did well for the city. I would like for everybody to think about the possibility of renaming perhaps the Town Center Boulevard or Town Center Road that goes through, I think it goes by,
Town Center?
yeah, Town Center Road. That's East-West Street, if I got my directions correctly, that it goes from Club Manor to Maumelle Boulevard, goes by, was it Quick Print, whatever that is. Anyway, I've kind of looked that road over. It looks nice. So anyway, I thought that might be a good road. I didn't want to rename it residential because a lot of people are going to have to change their address. And so I don't think there may not be anybody that have to change their address there on Town Center. So anyway, think about it.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Shin.
One of the things I noticed at Blackout on Boulevard was how clean the park was being maintained during the event. I don't know if the city was taking care of that or if the volunteers were. But we were there Saturday afternoon, nearly all afternoon. We were back there Monday for the event. And I was so impressed with how clean the grounds were with 3,000 people standing around watching.
I'm sure the event staff had something to do with it, but Parks and Rec was staying on top of it
They really
the whole
were.
time.
And they need recognition for that. I also want to recognize Public Works because there was a C-click fix over in my neighborhood of about a bunch of debris that had washed up during the high water, and it accumulated at the bridge there near my house. And this morning, since couldn't go to work for the power outage, heard all the commotion and went out and watched them load pieces of concrete and such. Cleaned it spot where there's nothing there now, and all within a week's time. I was really impressed with that.
Nice. Councilmember Williams.
Well, while we're talking about the good stuff going on at the park, Calvary Chapel had a wonderful Sunday morning service. It was so good. They brought their music, they brought their band, and it was just fabulous. People just wandered up, just not even knowing there was going to be church there, and they just stayed for the service, and it was really very good. You know, that's our neighbor, Calvary Chapel, right there, so they do a lot for our community.
Thank you. Any additional council member comments? City attorney comments? City clerk comments?
Super quick, because I think it's important. Councilmember Grunwald, when you stepped out, we collectively, the council did vote to indefinitely table 1119. I just wanted you to be aware of it because I had to mark your vote as absent. Thank you.
All right. At this time, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to adjourn the city council meeting of April the 15th, 2024.
I thought the motion was going to fail for lack of a second. I've got a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you for